Hi, everybody. My name is Timothy Mitchell, and I am the Practical Printer. As always, I have guests. And today I have Patrick Zimmerman and Sebastian Hansens effectively, are you coming in from France, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much for joining me. You are with Caldera, arguably one of the finest color control rips in the world. And I have many, many friends, including I think the entire facility at HP down the street that I worked at, that all use Caldera and love it. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Nice to be here.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great product. A lot of friends of mine too. I joke, with software, people don't realize it, but most of the higher end functioning shops that I know all fly a flag. And the flag is what's their software. And then whatever printers you sell or finishing equipment has to line up with the software. So because they're committed to the software, that's how everything gets done. And so as long as you can build something that works well with their choice, like my friend Mark is all Caldera, then he'll consider it. If it doesn't work with Caldera, it's an immediate no. So you guys make a very nice product, and I just want to let you know that it has an enormous respect around the world. So let's talk about that product a little bit. Caldera Rip. What is it I need to know? And by the way, you guys are going to be at the Printing United show, right? You're going to have a booth there.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And
Looking
at this
forward to it.
printing, what is the number of the booth so people can find you?
So we're at 5039.
5039. That is your booth.
Yes.
Marvelous. Okay, well, I will be there for sure. I'm going to be visiting, so I want to stop by. I'm going to bring some video guys, and we're going to have a little interview. But we thought we would do this a little preliminarily. Tell me about Caldera Rip. What are the core things, and are some new features or new facets of Caldera Rip and its various I know that there's different components within or different versions of Caldera Rip depending on what you want to accomplish.
So we've built Caldera Rip to be an easy to use drag and drop interface that drives all printers, especially the high volume, high fidelity color kind of applications. We do all kind of applications from textiles to car wrap to stickers to packaging. So it's a really full-featured solution that, of course, then is tiered, to tailor to the smaller printers, the bigger printers, industrial printers, people that have one site, multiple sites, etc. But they can
Okay.
get, the big bang out of Caldera with, like you said, all the different features that they're looking for and keeping it simple. I think that was one of the keys to success. Our drag and drop interface, something new, something easy to use that people were used to, especially the Mac aficionados, because, we're on Mac and Linux. And so that
Right.
community is very, faithful, so to say. So,
Well, you'll be happy to know that I bought my first Mac laptop recently. I
wel-
finally broke down and said, it's a great laptop. It
welcome
really
to the
is.
community.
It took me a while, but I said, it's a hell of a laptop. It's got great battery life. Everything is streamlined, so I'm very delighted with it, actually.
I started in the 80s with an Apple IIc, I think, and been there ever since.
So you have some other products also that you've introduced. One is called the Visual Rip. I know is like a very nice entry level, which you guys have, which I think a lot of people can appreciate to kind of get in the game, especially entry level customers, people that are a little bit has one printer or two printers. But you also have a product that I think is targeting a market which is very, very hot right now, which is growing leaps and bounds, which is in the textile space, which is DTF, textile direct to film. You have an answer for that. You want to tell me a little bit about what you guys built for that product?
Yeah, so we have a DTF, so a new engine, okay, built.
Okay,
It's works on both Windows, Linux, and Mac for that
cool.
market. So still with the Caldera, let's say, spirit, easy to use interface, key features that you only need for DTF, because otherwise, they're just drowned out with too many features. Most of the
Okay.
DTF customers, they just want a good print with high resolution colors or vibrant colors to make the brand look good when they apply it to a t-shirt. And that's what we focused on. Not too many features, but keep it simple to all those people now going into that market, because it's complex. It's a complex market. They have to work with the garment, they have to
Right.
work with the heat, they have to press. They have customers saying, "Oh, it's not red enough or blue enough," and you have to work with the whites, you have to work with the knockout, and you have to work with the choke. So that's what we try to build into something that's easy to use but performant.
If I may add to the story,
Please.
um, DTF is one of our new products, right? Which actually highlights the new approach we want to have to the market, right? We are in the rib business since a long, long time. Like the majority of the major rib vendors, it evolved, right? And it became, well, complex to say the least, right? DTF, we really went back to the drawing board and decided to drive the application by the desired user experience, right? So effectively in that kind of segment, these may not be people familiar with RIPs, right? Typical digital RIPs or signage RIPs. So the entire user experience has been designed so that, well, it is a RIP, but it doesn't look like a RIP, right? It actually drives what you need for direct to film in this particular application. But the same approach actually works for, we have a direct to garment product, which shares the same technology, of course, but the user experience is always driven by the application and tailored so that it's easy to use, streamlined, and avoiding any level of complexity that may not be useful for this particular use case.
Great. So you made a very, very simple sort of drag and drop wizard type workflow that narrows things down for new people who have
Exactly.
stepped into the DTF market that said, and DTF's complex enough. I mean, it's
Mhm.
kind of unfortunate you have this technology that's very grassroots, but it has the film, the ink, the printer, the powder, the shaker, the finishing. It's a lot of steps. It's almost like a dye sub workflow, which is harder to master than just printing a sticker on a print and cut with an eco-solvent printer. So you guys built a software that's just very focused on that market that has all the things they need and none of the stuff they don't.
Exactly this. Mm.
Great. And it runs on any software operating
Yeah.
system. So you choose,
Windows, Mac,
doesn't matter.
Linux. Yeah.
Okay, very clever. One of the things I'll note from my experience in DTF, and I became very interested several years ago, there seems to be if I were to point out, there's many weak points in the workflow. One of them is software. I think a lot of people, a lot of very amateurish software was bundled with Chinese printers, and people were struggling to get high quality results, and they didn't know why because they're all new to this market. And one of the reasons I would tell them is, well, your software isn't very good. And are you using just canned presets that you get with the software? And they're like, yes. I said, well, you need to up your software game. There's some very, very good companies in this industry that have been making software for a long time. And you got to do layers, including spot layers. And the control of your white is going to be critical to how well your colors come out. You need to get just enough white on that colored shirt so that you don't ruin the hand, but then you also have to have enough for opacity so that you have your colors being vibrant, right? And that's where you guys come in. I mean, that you're experts at that stuff. So,
Exactly. Mm.
okay,
Yeah, exactly. And I'd add, that's a product that you sell. I mean, these guys are selling it. Whereas you're going to have 500 stickers that you print and you're going to use it for more communication. But here you're selling a product. You're enriching the product, adding a print to it, customizing it or whatever. And then it becomes a product that you sell to somebody who's buying it, who's going to have, certain, expectations. So you have to get the
sure.
color right. You have to get what you said, the hand feel right. All
Right.
that needs to be super
Yeah, I
precise.
don't think you can be successful in DTF at the top tier unless you have a commanding understanding of your ink control through the rip.
Mhm.
It just isn't going to work. You're going to be using an inferior rip that just does the job, but it doesn't really give you the color that's possible. And then your competitor who does use, say, the DTF Caldera is going to get much better results and the hand will be better. And you can struggle with coatings and film and heat settings, but that's not where your issue is. Your issue is you're not controlling the ink properly. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'm a fan. No question.
Thank
I
you.
think it's a
Mm.
great idea, and so I'm looking forward to integrating it into some of the people that I know do a lot of DTF. And I see DTF UV on the horizon is a big thing, so I think this would lend itself well to it. So the last one you have your PrimeCenter. And tell me about your PrimeCenter because I know a little about it. I haven't entirely seen it in action. I love the concept. And again, you're on multiple platforms again, right? Any operating system.
I can do a quick intro before Patrick goes deep dives into the automation. So PrimeCenter, because it's going to be technical. So PrimeCenter really is agnostic solutions, work with every RIP to solve those pre-press file preparation problems for people that need to prepare files to go to print or to cut. Everybody thinks that you can do everything in the RIP or they do it in the Adobe suite, but it's good to have a software that can help you prepare files that need to go to production. And people kind of underestimate the time that it takes to do that manually. And PrimeCenter is that level of software that can really help there.
Well, cool. Love the idea. So you could be using another RIP, but still utilize PrimeCenter for your whole front end.
Yes.
In theory. I mean, obviously we'd like them to.
No. In reality, that's actually the idea. I mean, so it's effectively agnostic, right? It's a PDF or something to PDF, if I can put it in these ways. What always comes out of PrimeCenter is PDF, right? So you can use it to normalize. I mean, we embed in PrimeCenter Calas technology, so state of the art of PDF management, which was a choice, right? Again, in the DNA of Caldera, high quality, stability, etc., is core to us, right? It's a must-have, right? You cannot negotiate with this. You need the best of the best. And effectively, the idea, what we've seen is that, again, it rolls back to the way RIPs have always been in our industry, right? They've evolved, but so did the customers, actually. And we see that there's a trend of users doing less of these operations in the RIP because it's at the very end of the workflow, which is normal, right? Its core goal is to drive a device. And yet you need these features, all these wonderful things that you have in the majority of the RIPs to turn a design into a printable element, including finishing, that is nesting, batching, ganging, marks, and all these things, where it may or may not be the print operator, so it may or may not be the RIP user. So PrimeCenter actually goes to fill this gap, right? It's upstream, absolutely. It's, of course, complementary to RIP, even though there are de facto some overlapping features, but they don't address the same person. Really, it's not the same person in the production. So it works obviously with Caldera, right? So with good integration or better integration, but it works with any software, right? Any RIP, it exports PDF, it embeds technology, it normalizes. Its core feature is obviously to nest, right? Or prepare for print and cut. In that same aspect, the way you actually organize your production, right, is not only necessarily about media saving, which is what a RIP may do, right? It's actually media optimization, nesting, etc. Whereas in PrimeCenter, you can do batching, complex aggregation, job subdivisions, which are never going to be a call that you make at the RIP level, right? It's obviously way up the workflow. And that's why PrimeCenter positions there, right? So there are overlapping features, but it's not for the same person, really not, right? Not the same persona. And the feature, despite the fact they overlap, they don't serve the same purpose, right? Really, absolutely.
Yeah, and about 50% of the PrimeCenter customers do not have Caldera RIP.
Yes.
So that's pretty interesting. So it means
that is interesting.
There was a problem out there that this solution tries to solve, saving them time on nesting or file preparation because it takes time to get a file ready to print. Okay, and the RIP is good at printing it, getting it the colors right, but the step before that is important too.
Okay, would you see this as being more in the hands of the file designers, like pretty much at the assuming they're working with, say, Adobe Suite, would you see it pretty much happening there, that this is being prepared? And then, so I've worked in big production shops where I just did ripping. Like that's all I did. Files came in, I got the file, prepared where it would go, and then would send it to different printers, and it would go into hot folder systems. Would I be doing it at the RIP area, or would it possibly be before, prepared in advance of me, or would it be like an adjunct to doing the RIP?
I think it depends on the profile. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, because it's kind of hybrid. It depends on the size of the print shop. Sometimes the guy preparing
Okay.
to do the pre-press is behind the rip. Other guys, my other shops might have, someone that's doing pre-press on the first floor, and then they just send files to the print operators who's doing the rip. But I think like you were talking about doing it in Adobe, I think those are creatives, and they will send a file
Okay.
like a sticker or a DTF, and then send it to someone who really optimizes the file for the output, printing
Okay.
or the cutting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's true that this is always. I mean, for people that are not in our industry, it's always difficult to explain why this is so complicated, right? And in reality, it is quite complicated. Why is
Right.
it in the rip? Why is it not in the rip? Why is it in pre-press? Do you call this pre-press? I mean, there are various names for this. I mean, I've traveled around to enough customers. Some called it pre-press, some called it the studio, whichever way, right? What for sure it is not is anything in regards to content creation. Absolutely not. But the
And
huge gap is really to convert that design, right, and make it printable, including the finishing and all the constraints you need to end up with a finished product, right? And this is not design, this is technicality.
it's
Yeah,
a
you need
solution
cut
that
marks.
adapts.
You need to nest it properly. You need
Nest
to
it,
take
add bleed.
multiple images and
Exactly.
put them
Yeah.
all together and say, okay, these all go together. We're going to nest them. We're going to reproduce them. And then does that then go to the RIP as a single
Exactly.
entity?
Yep.
And then that's where the color and the control and everything is being
Yes,
applied.
we leave
And then
to
it
the
goes
RIP.
to the press operator who just gets files and prints them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it really depends on the shop and their workflow. I mean, we can have a two-person shop that has um, roll-to-roll printer and a flatbed cutter, or a flatbed printer and a flatbed cutter, and he's doing everything. So he's just happy to apply what we call recipes, or what you would call actions if you're doing creative design, where you're going to apply a set of instructions to a file. Open, add this, change this, change that, nest, etc. Output, and then it goes to the RIP, like you guys said, and manages all the colors. So that's a lot of time that you can save because you're not opening individual each file and applying a set of instructions. That's the value of PrimeCenter.
Good.
Exactly.
I think it's a very big value.
It is a big value. It is a big value. And in the same approach, which is a structural product definition we're trying to apply, right? It exists as a entry level or a start product, right? Which is completely manual, which you can turn to in a semi-manual or a fully headless automated, still based on the same technology, right? So that as your way of using it evolves, or eventually the volumetry and your entire around or surrounding ecosystem, you can plug it in and then turn it into a black box for whatever you can run Streamline, and yet still manually interact for the whatever 20% you cannot fully automate, right? So it really evolves with the customer. It evolves with the way he operates. And it, again, the goal is to streamline every aspect of the production, right? At the end of the day, a RIP, especially when you run a very organized or lean printing facility, well, it rips, right? It rips, the file comes in, it goes to the device. You may choose the material, you may choose color management, things like this, which obviously are definitely applicable to the device. However, nesting or deciding to add bleed or putting cut marks, well, that's very device agnostic, right? That doesn't have to be done at the device level. So it can be upstream. There are some constraints, obviously, but the goal is really to streamline that production and have touch points that actually only interact with the relevant elements.
Okay. So are you kind of in a sense taking the RIP and saying, I need you to handle do exactly what the RIP is
Exactly.
actually
Yeah.
original meant to do, which is
Yeah.
you take the file, convert it from this format to a printer understandable language, and give me color reproduction. Everything else, I can do that in advance of that, and I can do
Yes.
it better. And that all of these RIP add-ons that have accumulated over the years, I can just do that in PrimeCenter.
Exactly. Now you still, I mean, it's not binary, of course, right? It depends
Right.
on the customer, its size, the versatility at the various touch point of the workflow, right? The worst that you wouldn't want to do is to have nested everything and then it doesn't work. Then you need to roll back to the very top of the food chain, start again. So the flexibility at every stage of the workflow is a plus, right? The goal is just to guide the end user to use, well, the relevant pieces at the relevant point in time. So these features in the RIP still stay. They are there anyway, right? They are there. But if you take the consideration of direct to film, for instance, obviously it's very minimalistic what needs to be done at the RIP level, right? But arising demands will start to, well, I want to organize my production. I'm going to print batches of 40 inches chunk for various customers, etc. You're not going to do this at the RIP. That doesn't make a lot of sense because that's a production organization definition. You may want to load balance, you may want to send it to multiple devices, and you're much better off doing this before, right, with a tool like PrimeCenter, and keep the RIP operation as streamlined as it can be.
That is a very interesting approach to the workflow. You guys have really sort of redefined how the workflow happens, and I think that's very clever.
Thanks.
And I think that's a good point to close on. Folks, if you want to see how that workflow happens and you want to see how it is executed and what it means and understand what I think sometimes walking through it, what Patrick's describing would have you grasp it a little bit better, make sure you go to the Printing United booth. Help me again with your booth.
5039.
5039. I did write it down, but I wrote it down on too many things. At 5039, and stop by the booth and meet all the guys at Caldera, and they will walk you through this as well as show you. And you guys have some new announcements, so I won't steal your thunder on that. You'll be announcing at the show for software, as well as see the DTF stuff in action. So thank you guys for joining me. It's been great. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you next week at the show.
See you at the
Thank
show.
you very
All right,
much.
bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Timothy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.